Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands we're joining from today.
I'm joining from Lisarow on the lands of the Darkinjung people.
And I am joining from the lands of the Nyungbul people of the Bundjalung Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. We acknowledge their deep and ongoing connection to land, waters, language and culture, and recognise that sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome to Femmebot, the pod where we're talking to the women redefining how tech gets made, marketed and remembered. So in this episode, we're stepping back and asking a big question. Where are we now? So the AI moment is here, whether we like it or not, but it's not exactly settled. We're in a period of creative and customer disruption, and everyone's trying to find their place. So I'm the creative director of Crybaby, and being pretty new to the tech space, I'm personally finding it pretty confronting. So along with my much more techie co-founder, Kat Stone, we've invited our longtime friend and client, Emily Leiding, who is a creative technologist and strategic leader who's worked across fashion with me, tech and customer experience. She was actually our first big client when we headed up Australian Fashion Week, when she headed up Australian Fashion Week at IMG. She brought us along for the ride to do all the content. And she spent her career since then bridging brand and product. And she's here to help us map out the moment. You've been at Microsoft now for how many years?
Nine very fast years.
Wow. So we want to talk today about what AI is doing to creativity, how it's reshaping customer experience and what brands need to be thinking about right now and not 5 years from now. So we'll get started. Hi, Em, and hi, Kat.
Hi, Claire.
Welcome,
Thanks
Em.
for having me.
Welcome to Femmebot. So let's start with AI and CX, and we're calling this the disruption era. Why is that? Who wants to pick this one up?
I'm happy
gonna
to
go
jump
first?
in.
Yeah.
Look, I think AI is enhancing every experience we have as human beings right now. It's personalizing the experience for a customer through chatbots. We've got virtual assistants. We're all very used to AI recommendations, really driving what we're consuming and what we're seeing. Everything's become conversational with the new LLMs, and I think it's just going to become more and more personalized, the way that we have those experiences with brands.
More from a creative, I totally agree with Em, but I think also from space, I feel like we're it's called the period of disruption. It's called another disruptive period because it's similar to when the internet came on board and went commercial, and then also when social media and platforms became available to people in a commercial way as well. I feel like it's disruptive because when there's these periods, it creates a lot of fear in a lot of spaces, in a lot of industries. And I think this one is particularly threatening to the creative industry because it's, I think, the first time or the first kind of period of disruption where it's providing us with a lot of tools or not even tools, it's replacing a lot of tasks that we saw as part of our creative process. So I think that's super challenging for people to embrace and come round to, because the creative process does have all of those steps in place to get to the idea or whatever it is. And I think that's very threatening to creatives. I don't see it in that way. I see it in the same way that sees it. I see it as a super supportive and incredible space that can really lift up the creative process. But it is all about knowledge and upskilling and reframing the way that you work and the way that you see yourself as a creative. And I think that's that's a very challenging and personal, like being creative is in you. And I feel like it's a super challenging and personal journey, which I think a lot of creatives are finding tough.
And the way that I've talked to it, I've been teaching this course at UTS, this single unit around AI and human thriving. And one of the things we've been talking about a lot is likening where we are with AI. I mean, it's so much bigger than this, but to like the calculator. And, everyone was saying no one's ever going to be able to do maths because of the calculator. We're never going to be able to add up. And instead, it just enhanced what human capability was because we had this tool that meant we could compute so much more. And that's the way I think about this. I think about the opportunity for our creatives because so much of this can be automated and just streamlined, and the quality, the output, the areas where you actually commit your creative soul. What can we do with that? What can we solve? What innovation can we unpack? Because we're not wasting our time on building pipelines and the things we don't need to do.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm just going to jump. Well, I think it's like if we think about it, Claire, when we started our company as well, we started the company because I was in New York, you were in London, we came back and Australians weren't doing digital content, right? And it's the same kind of space, and everyone was so nervous around digital content. And I think we started we embraced it, we got it. And we were going into companies and being like, you need to do digital content, you need to do digital content. And everyone was going, no, we don't. What are you talking about? Or influencers or that, and that was us pitching in at the beginning of our company. And I feel like we're in that space again right now. And there's definitely, it's new. It's only been around, what OpenAI launched in early Jan last year. So it hasn't been around for long, and we're in that space again where we need to work out a way that actually elevates you as a creative and not, takes away from your creative soul.
I guess, so from my perspective, I'm looking at, I come from a magazine background and then moved into digital, but I'm that person that's working with photographers and hair and makeup artists and crews that, really, say with H&M's latest campaign where they've created AI twins of models, they're using the model's likeness so that now that model can literally be created into a campaign without actually being there. But that removes the rest of the crew from that process. So there goes photographer, hair and makeup, etc. And I guess what I find most challenging is that when I'm on set with a team like that, it's the personal relationship between the hair and makeup artist and the photographer and the talent, especially, to create those moments. So if we're removing that altogether, where does that leave those creatives?
I think that where we are is this transition phase, and we're all figuring out how to leverage this, how it's going to affect our industry, what jobs are going to be most impacted, and more to the point, what new things can we do, right? But I think about when Spotify launched, it actually wasn't Spotify, whatever the first music streaming platform was. And all of the music artists were like, this is the end of the music industry. There's no way we're going to get paid. They're taking advantage of it. They're, giving it away for free, and now we're not getting any rights. And it took a while, and we came together and we built a governance and a platform that meant that music artists and publishers could get their payments through that system, and everyone could benefit from the new technology. And I think creatives are going to feel the same way. Like, digital media came about, graphic design on computers came about, and painters are saying, oh, no one's ever going to need a painter again because look how quickly and cleanly you can do it. But that wasn't the case. It just creates another avenue and another pathway. And I think there's opportunity for true creative innovation that we need. It's critical at this time. The world is at a point where we actually need great innovation and great creative minds to be doing more than they're doing now. So if we can shift that workload, it's exciting for me.
And I think, can I just echo that as well? I think also because you brought up music as well, I come from a musical family. I think something that I noticed, because I worked in the music industry before Claire and I started our business, and to get seen in the music industry, you had to be scouted, someone had to find you, then you had to have backing behind you. And to actually get your music as a creative, even, a demo or anything, you had to have tens of thousands of dollars behind you. It was so untouchable. And I think that's what a lot of creatives especially in our beauty and fashion sphere, are scared of, because it was such an untouchable industry and such an aspirational industry that if you were a creative, it was really hard to get access to. And what this kind of digital transformation of the globe, and also like in terms of music, but also in terms of creative as well, is offering is for people to get access to getting their work seen, and not having to not having to be in the right parties or the right, and I think that's something
It's
that's
totally
really,
been a democratization of
yeah,
quick being. Anyone can create now.
yeah, which I
Because
think,
of the technology and the platforms and social media, you can
and
do this.
we might not have had the Goitiers or people like that, that made something in their bedroom and put it out. And that is a real huge pro, but I do think there's lots of cons as well. But I'm just saying, I think with like anything any change that happens in the world, there's always pros and cons. There's always going to be pros and cons. And to me, that is something that I think is priceless, is that's giving young creatives opportunities to create and, be seen, without having connections to the music industry or connections to, I don't know, an ad agency friend or something like that. So I think that's quite incredible and quite a huge groundbreaking,
Kat, the only thing that I worry about with that, and this is something that I've seen in the way that I'm consuming books and media right now, is that how do they get seen if we have an algorithm that's feeding us what we already know? How do we
Totally.
find a new genre of music or a new type of book that we would never have been exposed to before? Like, I mean, I'm an old person. I remember wandering Blockbuster Video and seeing the cover of some movie I never would have picked up, or in the bookstore and there's a post-it note from one of the women who works there that says why she loved it. And I'm like, oh, I'll pick that up. I want technology to get to the point where it's personalizing that customer experience and it's giving me recommendations, but it's also challenging me. It's
Yeah.
not just feeding me in this echo chamber where I'm only going to be
100%. Well, it's
exposed to
the
the
same
stuff.
thing. It's with
Yeah.
news. It's like,
News, with Facebook, with, it's like, I think, and that does worry me as well. We're starting to become more and more siloed into who we think we are. And so you're not you're not walking down the street and being challenged by someone who thinks differently or anything like that. It's just getting more and more siloed. So that is definitely a huge con, I think, which hopefully, tech brands are thinking about and trying to mitigate.
what's the process on your end, Em? Obviously, you're on the inside, and things for us seem to be moving so fast. Does it feel that way for you? But that's the first question. Does it feel that way for you? And also, from an ethical perspective, what are the process of, are things troubleshooted in that way?
Look, I totally understand the fear, right? We have built technology before that is so biased and so built on the wrong type of information, or there's human bias that is built into the algorithms that has meant things like, Siri and all those voice technologies. I think they were 99% accurate with an American man's voice. And then every minority underneath that was, multiple percentages below in terms of their ability to translate. And I think we're really learning from that. And especially at Microsoft, inclusion comes first. It's responsible innovation is so important right now. And I think that's why I'm proud to be at Microsoft, because the ethical thought behind everything is so deep. Like, there was a customer that wanted to utilize some of our facial recognition technology to be able to profile future offenders using a police database. And Microsoft said no, because we knew that the data that it was going to be built on was built on human bias and racism in that sector. That would mean that then we're profiling future criminals based on historic data. And I think that's really important that we're thinking about that, because every bit of data in the internet right now has society bias built in, not only from who had access to the internet back then and who was creating content, but also the time in society. And I mean, look, you heard it here first, but I truly believe that there will one day be almost like a rating system to let you know how much you can trust the content, how much it has been manipulated by AI, what biases are built into the knowledge that it's used based on, the year the information came from or the reliability of the source. So you actually can start to get a bit of classification behind it. But I think that's a real worry, the ethical side of things. And I think right now it's holding brands back because the media has been fear-mongering and it's making people scared to make a move. And I think that's going to be a real challenge for some businesses to catch up if they stop now.
It's so interesting that you brought up classification as well, because I'm coming from, came from an ex-TV world, and everything was so, every show that you made had to go through classifications, right? And ever since we've started our digital content agency, we haven't had any policies or any, there's no pushback. We can kind of make whatever, and it's just gone. I mean, we wouldn't because it's ethical, but there's still no kind of really harsh policies around things, right? It's just driven by whatever the platform is and their own ethics. Do you think other people, that's great that Microsoft are doing it, but do you think other companies are doing that as well, other big companies?
No, I think not all companies. No, I think that there's very much an opportunity for AI to be manipulated and utilised in a negative way. And I think that's also why we can't stop it. You can't just not continue with this AI advancement now that it's here. We have to keep up with it so that we can put the guardrails around it. And, we were part of that federal government summit recently where we were consulted by federal government as to how they need to put in place governance and restrictions and requirements alongside this as we roll it out, specifically around privacy and ethics and integrity of content. And that's something that does frighten me, that the government's playing catch up. They're not investing in this area. The tech companies are leading the way. Yeah. And it shouldn't be that way. I mean, it has to be because of the wealth, where the wealth lies and, where the investment is currently lying in terms of driving AI forward, but it shouldn't be that way. And I think that's where the government needs to step up and really start to take a leading role here so that they can be driving that and building that trust in this technology that's going to become as important as electricity across all of our industry.
What's the danger in private companies driving that and driving those kind of bumper bars that you're talking about and where they place them?
I think that what we're building right now is the base platform for these algorithms. And if you think about when the internet started, it's kind of how everything's going to build, the building blocks that are going to be added from here. And if that base isn't right, you're starting to reinforce biases in every single next iteration. And that's where I'm worried. Like if you think about, ChatGPT, it's built off the data that it's getting is off the internet. The internet is a cesspool of rubbish. We all know that, and I think that we need to really, I think that's what the challenge is. If you've got these tech companies driving this, they can manipulate the data for their own ends. And in a lot of cases, you've got companies where you think that you're the customer, but you're actually the product, because really it's data mining and it's trying to, the companies are trying to understand your shopping habits, your location services, where you're going, what you're spending more time on, how they can capture more of your attention, more of your money, and they'll be manipulating the algorithm in order to be able to do that. And it's not always for your benefit. If we can make you sad, you're going to spend more money. If, the content, you're 10 times more likely to stay on content that makes you sad than you are on content that makes you happy. Like, it's devastating.
My next question was, how do we protect the human and customer experience? But you're already talking to that there. So it has to be government, right? Government-led.
I think so, but I also think that as human beings, I personally think that we're going to come into a generation, the next generation after us are likely going to be more face-to-face and more offline than online. I think they've grown up in a world where this has been part of their life since they were small children, and that this is the first generation that's going to grow through that. And I personally think we're going to see them turning away from technology because it's so much more, they feel so much more trust in the face-to-face because they've grown up with these deep fakes and this kind of moving technology that makes reality perception, you're able to manipulate reality, which you can't do in the face-to-face. So I really hope that's what we see with the next generation.
I think you're the first person I've heard say that you believe that. That's so nice to hear.
No, I think you can see it in the despair just with online apps. Like,
100%.
you hear your friends the younger friends talking about it, and it's just nothing is real. There's no commitment to a meetup. Because it's all just sitting in that app. And I mean, the push now, people are starting doing these. I mean, you tried to set one up, remember?
I did, yeah.
Like of real life hookup opportunities, because it's not where it's at. And obviously some people are lucky and find their person or whatever, but a lot of people are finding a lot of misery in that experience.
And you can understand, I think it's going to be the same when you were asking before about if we're going to see, you know, a loss in creativity as AI is starting to kind of, you know, make things a little bit more generic. And I think that you see that with experiences like the dating apps, you know, the only thing you've got in common is you both downloaded the same app and you know, single. Like there's no connection there. And this AI can be used for this deep personalization so you can get more bespoke like that. I think once we start, we're going to over-index. We're going to end up with this over-reliance on these algorithms. Content's going to become really homogenized. You're going to be looking at, you know, creative campaigns where the arms are too long or they've got 7 fingers or the eyes just don't look quite right because they're not human beings and they're not making eye contact. And people are going to be like, actually, I really connect with this brand because it's slow and it's real and I trust it and I make eye contact with it. And, you know, that's really, you're going to really feel the human in the human.
Emma, you sort of saying that the customer will dictate where it goes?
I think so. I mean, I think you're already seeing in like there are nightclubs and cafes and restaurants and even hotels opening around the world where there's no Wi-Fi. There's no, you know, the idea is that people are desperate to disconnect. They just don't know how.
Yeah.
And I think creatives have this ability to tell a beautiful story. And while AI is great, all it is rehashing what's already out there. And I mean, I use it every day. I love Copilot, but it's not my voice, you know? And so I get the content from Copilot and then I rework it into my voice. So it's a great assistant, but it's not leading my voice. And I think that's how creative teams can really leverage it and also leverage the data, right?
Yeah.
Leverage the analysis, leverage the custom insights, know what's going to work. So when you build a beautiful campaign, Claire, with your photographer and you're engaging creative teams and you make this great piece of content, you get it to the people that are going to care and you make it work for the brand because of the AI and the data.
Could you, because obviously this term's being thrown around a lot at the moment, especially at Microsoft as well, the human-centered AI. Can you just explain a bit more about what that is and yeah, what that means for someone like Microsoft? Is that what it what you're talking about now? Is that what it means?
It's about collaborating, right? So when we build our AI systems, really thinking about how are they going to work alongside humans. That's why Copilot is called Copilot, because it's not the pilot, it's the Copilot. It's meant to augment human capability and human collaboration to improve outcomes and solutions. So it's very much about that human control over the AI systems and the transparency between the way that that's developed so that you've got that human it's enhancing human life and it's built in a way that means the capabilities are prioritizing human needs, values and capabilities, if that makes sense. So in a work environment, you know, we think about it, it's not meant to be replacing or diminishing human roles. It's meant to be augmenting. It's meant to be helping you visualize data, enable to understand things. If you think about where we are in it right now, and we can't solve it, we've got overpopulation, we're going to run out of food, we've got environmental pressures, we've got animals becoming extinct. You know, it's like when people say barefoot running's better. You're on mute too, Claire.
Kat, you need to mute when Em's talking because otherwise I can't hear it.
Oh. Mine or Kat?
Yeah, yours.
Okay.
But I think if Kat mutes, it gives it more.
Okay.
Sorry, where can we pick that up from, Anya?
That's all right, because you can hear me. Human AI. Let me just
Human-centered AI. And so
Human-centered AI.
yeah, what is it? Because it's been a term that's being thrown around a lot, and which is in that Ernst & Young report that I saw on Wednesday.
And you said, so you, I think, pick it up from like, that's why we call Copilot because it's not the pilot. Yeah, that was, yeah. All right.
Human-centered AI is really about an approach to developing AI technologies that prioritize human needs and values and capabilities at the very core of the design and operation of those solutions. So if you think about Microsoft, our Copilot. It's called Copilot because it's meant to be your co-pilot. It's meant to work alongside you, augmenting your ability to do your job and helping you create innovative solutions and improving outcomes in various fields. If I look at the world today, we can't solve the problems of tomorrow with today's technology. We need better technology to be able to find new ways to find fertile soil, to produce crops at scale, to be able to genetically modify food, to be able to feed the growing population, healthcare problems, even mental health. You know, there are some companies out of Israel that are seeing huge amounts of mental health issues in young people because they're coming out of military service and they couldn't keep up with demand. So they're using AI to be able to triage and provide support at various levels and really deliver some effective solutions in healthcare that wouldn't be possible without AI. And that's what excites me. I think this idea that they're taking our jobs is absurd. Who wants a job? We need to find a different way to run our economies so that we're not having a job for a job's sake, but we're actually using this technology to free us up from our desks so we don't have to work 5 days a week and we're actually able to contribute more to society because we've got more free time.
Yeah, agreed.
I like that outlook on we don't have the technology now to solve the world's problems tomorrow. So that is super optimistic. And I think Emma mentioned in another episode that we did about the piece we did with Jenny Leigh-Fleury and Christine and how that really changed my outlook on AI and the technology advancements that are possible for people with disabilities. So I think that also encaptures what you've just, it's very similar in that it can be used in such a positive way. And it's just about, I guess, letting the dust settle in a way. Like, even in our industry 10 years ago, everything shifted, like Kat said, magazines gone, digital content. It really is a period of disruption. And it sounds like we as the customer ultimately have the power.
I think that if I was a creative right now in this world, it's an incredible opportunity. Upskill on AI, learn about how this works. It might actually open up a door to you that you never even knew was a door. I think that that's what is exciting me. You don't have to stay in your lane. This is, career pathways aren't linear anymore. And with these changes in technologies, think about what that means for you. What can you apply that incredible creativity that you have? And where can you put that using these new tools to produce something that's never been seen before? I think that's what's exciting. Like, this is so exciting for us. We are literally at the dawn of a new age. And it's like, get on board or get left behind, really.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's what we're trying to do as a business. We really are trying to upskill and make our workflow more fluid, so that we have time to spend on the things that we really enjoy as opposed to the monotonous tasks that we don't. So I think that's an awesome way to look at it.
If you could foresee the future in 12 months, what would it look like for the creatives of this world in the future? If you were going to inspire them to get somewhere or,
I think about how you can use this innovation to actually tell a deeper story. I remember seeing this man from NASA, this incredible data scientist at NASA, who created a visualization of all of the, the whatever it is, megabytes. I'm a low-tech girl in a high-tech world. The stuff coming from Earth to a satellite and then coming down from the satellite to Earth. And he created a huge water feature in the middle of the NASA lobby that showed in real time that data. I think that's what's exciting. We have a whole new layer of the world that's been opened up to us, this connective tissue that we can now see that we could never see before. As a creative, how can you use that to tell a better story, to tell a more bespoke story, to tell a more nuanced story, or to tell a story that meets the needs of your audience more specifically? For me, that's exciting.
Thank you so much. We could talk to you for hours, and I think we'll have to get you back on the podcast because there's so much that we could talk about, including your own journey and how you found yourself in this tech space. But for now, thank you for your time, and we will finish here. So that's it for this episode of Femmebot, the podcast powering women in tech. If you liked what you heard, hit subscribe and share.